Hi friends, Dini here. I'm back. And I just got a bit delayed in continuing the series, so I talk more about it here. But nevertheless, I am back. And in this video, we are going to talk about step number 2, which is identifying your ingredients or planning your ingredients. So this is where you decide the types or kinds, sizes, or diameters and colors of the paper flowers that you are going to use. But before that, if you haven't had the chance to check out the overview of the series, then click the link right here. And if you want to go back to the previous video before this where I discuss the first step in the series, then go ahead and click this link. Before we start, please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Now, let us dive in. If you are working with your client, then this factor or the ingredient that you are going to use will highly depend on the requirements of your clients. Most often, your client, or you might stumble upon a client that has a specific kind of flowers that they want. Like for example, my paper flower dahlia wall or my dahlia wall. My bride wanted an all paper flower dahlia wall. And then for example, my wedding boutique client back in Greensboro. So it was one of my very first projects. She wanted it to be an all rose paper flower wall or an all paper rose wall. So stuff like that. But sometimes they won't be specific, or sometimes if you are doing it on your own, then you just gotta decide like probably what would be the easiest flowers to make, or the flowers that use less papers. So it will really be up to you. So if you have like a small budget for papers, or small budget basically for the paper flower wall, then you would probably choose a flower. Well, you won't choose the paper dahlia because it just uses so many paper, but it's beautiful nevertheless. But what I mean is, so if you want a low-cost paper flower wall, then of course just use a paper flower that is simple to make and uses less paper. So things like that. Because also keep in mind, this list or this ingredient list is very important to our step 3, which of course we will delve in later. Now, let us go back to our project study, which is my Greensboro Science Center flower wall, or my sunflower and rose flower wall. So let's do a recap. So this was a backdrop for a wedding that was held in the Greensboro Science Center in 2021. It was an 8x8 backdrop. The motif or the colors of the wedding is purple. Actually, it was not purple. It was lavender. And their major flower is the sunflower. So another color would be yellow. So the color are different shades of lavender. I added in a bit of like dark purple, which the client approved. And then, of course, like different shades of yellow or different tints of yellow. And the flowers were, of course, sunflowers, and I think the bride agreed on using roses. Now, in the previous video, I kind of left you hanging with a question, well, my cliffhanger. The question of how was I able to pull off installing in just less than an hour? Because that was also one of the requirements for the bride to book me. That's like, I should be able to install the paper flower wall in like less than an hour. So without further ado, here's the answer to the question. I created larger flowers for the paper flower wall, hence I used less flowers to place in the wall. And it resulted in a quicker setup. You see, in the previous wall that I have made, the largest size of flower is 18 inches. And there were a lot of smaller flowers, like we're talking, 7.5 to like 12 inches, even 10 inches. There are a lot of those. So I think the first version of the Neutrella was about 120 pieces. Hence, it took more time to set up. For the Greensboro Science Center wall, I used a lot of 24-inch sunflowers and also a lot or like 18 inches. I also used like smaller pieces, but not as much as the previous one. For this wall, there were a lot more larger flowers. Now, I do want to mention, at this point, you might have or you might be asking a question in your head. why don't I just, attach the flowers prior to getting in the venue and then just bring, a panel of like a 4x8, like a 2-piece panel, and then just attach it there. So check out this video first. This is where I explain the process or like the reason behind that, or like delve into the reason behind that. But in a nutshell, I currently don't have a large van, or I don't have a large vehicle or car right now. So I'm just working with what we have, which is a middle-sized SUV. Because to be able to put what I just mentioned of like just the 2-panel, then I would need to have a van, this U-Haul $20 per day van. But I've tried that before. Renting a van, and it's just the cost of doing the business will be more, so it's just not advisable. So my compensation, or I am just trading time for like what I'm lacking or for what I lack. But I'm using like what we have. So that's the thing there. Anyhow, let us proceed, or let us go back. So to pull this off, there were a lot of like brainstorming on what flowers do I need to make, or like what are the final flowers. And so I actually made a lot of new templates for this one. And the good news is that those templates are available. A lot of the templates are available. So do check them out at dwblooms.com/workshops. You can make them yourself. So yeah, again, do check them out. dwblooms.com/workshops. The link is also available in the description below. Okay, now let's really go back. Without further ado, these are the ingredients or the types of flowers that I have made for my Greensboro paper flower wall. So I have, of course, my sunflowers. So I have the 24-inch. I will be discussing the quantity in the next step. But yeah, I do have the 24-inch and 18-inch, and I also sneaked some of like 14 inches in there, just for like, it kind of acted like as the filler flowers since I have the larger ones. And all of the sunflowers are a mixture of deep and light yellow with brown and like dark gray centered, because I believe in their motif, or like the suit of the groom is like dark gray. So I kind of added like an element of dark gray in there. Then I have my roses. I used my 18-inch large paper rose, the bulky ones, kind of bulky. That's why I think I just like used and made a few. I also have my trusty Petal 6. I call this Petal 6. It's like a flat version of 14-inch rose. And even though it's like not as big, this flower will always be a staple of my paper flower walls. Well, except for the dahlia, because it was required to be all dahlias. But like almost all of my walls do contain this one, just because it packs flat and it uses, I think it's just 8 paper for the 18-inch, or sorry, for the 14-inch. So I have a 14-inch version that uses like 14 to 15 cardstock, letter size cardstock. It's the same size as the Petal 6. So I call it Petal 6. Hopefully by this time I've released it and the link is here. Or like, sorry, you can check the link down below for the Petal 6 rose. I really love it because it packs flat, and then there are actually 2 styles that you can make out of the template. So yeah, do check it out. Petal 6 rose. So the roses are a mix of dark purple, it's almost like dark indigo, and also light lavender. Then I have my Anastasia paper flower. Now, this paper flower is small. It's like 12 inches, and then also the petals like have intricate cuts. It's not really advisable to do, most especially if you're in a rush. But at this point, at that point, I was just beginning my paper flower wall journey. So it kind of became like a signature, like a paper flower signature of mine, since this is like my original design. If I am making a wall by myself, or like the client is not really particular on the flowers that I am going to use for their walls, I always add an Anastasia paper flower, just because it's my signature. So in total for this wall, I have used 56 to 60, from what I remember, like 56 to 60 paper flowers, not including the small fillers, but I also just used simple fillers for this one, and I didn't use a lot just because, again, I'm like a crunch for the time. But yeah, So 50, let's say 60 flowers versus 120. So yeah, it's half. That's the answer to the question from the previous video. So I use less flowers. That's why I was able to set up in the time that was required by the client. And so there you have it, the ingredients that I made for the Greensboro paper flower wall, or for the sunflower and rose paper flower wall. Now, I am curious if you have tried making your own paper flower wall, and if it was decided by the client or even by yourself. What's the most interesting combination of ingredients that you have encountered or have made for a client, or you have decided for yourself? So please share your answer in the comments below. And now tune in for my next video, which is step 3. So step 3 answers the question, how do you know how many paper flowers do you need to make? Yeah, so that's why tune in, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet. And please like this video. Again, you can check out my other videos. And I guess that's it. I'll see you in step number 3. So take care and bye.